This is how I shake my butt. Hey, welcome back to Little Green Dog's animation tutorial series. In this episode, we're going to rig and animate this cat's tail. The version of Moho we'll be using is 14.3. To follow along, download this activity file from the link in the video description below. In this Moho project file, I drew a cat's body in one layer and its tail in another. Before we can rig the tail, we need to anchor the tail bones to something, and in a cat rig, that would be the root bone. Every character should have a root bone. It's literally the bone from which all the other bones branch out. In a biped character, the root is like the character's hip bone, with the spine bones branching upward, and the leg bones branching downward. For characters with the tail bones also branch from the spine. In a quadruped, the angle of the root may be different, but the hierarchy is the same. Here's this character's root, the spine bones, the legs, and the tail. I'm going to start by selecting the Add Bone tool to draw a root bone for our cat. I'll name this bone Root. When rigging a character, it's a good habit to name the bones as you create them. I'll set the color to orange so I can see it more clearly. Before I add the tail bones, I'm going to open the Bone Constraints panel and check on Ignored by IK. I'll explain what IK is and what this option does in another tutorial. We won't be using IK for this lesson, so let's move on. To make the tail bones, I'll use the Sketch Bones tool. Sketch Bones is used to draw a chain of bones and animate them. Up here, make sure the bone length is set to 0.12. This value sets the length of each bone in the chain. Now, with the root bone selected, I'll hold Shift to constrain the angle of the tool, and draw a straight line to the right. Draw the line and go past the end of the tail. Look, we have a chain of tail bones. Let's name these bones. Select all of them, and enter tail in the bone name box. This will name all of the bones tail, followed by a unique number. I'll make these bones red. Let's bind the artwork. I don't want to deform the body, so I'm going to use the Bind Layer tool to bind the body layer to the root bone. Now select the tail layer, and with the Select Bone tool, select all the tail bones. Go to the Tool options, and click the Link Bones button. Now the tail layer is bound to the tail bones, and will be unaffected by other bones in this rig, which in this case would only be the root bone. Okay, let's test our rig. To pose and animate the bones, we need to be on an animation frame, which is any frame above frame 0. So let's step into frame 1. With the Sketch Bones tool selected, and beginning with the first bone, I'm going to draw a line curving upward through the tail. Pretty neat, huh? For animation, the Sketch Bones tool lets you pose a chain of bones by drawing through them. This rig seems to be working well, so let's animate it. First, I'm going to draw the tail in a relaxed pose. Down here in the timeline, the red bone channel represents the selected bones, which in this case is all the tail bones. Move the playhead to frame 24. Copy the keyframes at frame 1 and paste them into 24. This will hold the pose for the first 24 frames of our animation. Now let's move the playhead a few frames forward and draw the tail moving upward. When animating a tail, always start with the base of the tail and draw completely through the chain. What's happening in this frame is the base of the tail is moving up and the rest of the tail is following it with a delay. Let's move a few frames later and continue this motion. The base continues pointing up and the rest of the chain follows. Move a few frames later, and now draw the base starting to move downward, and the chain follows, forming an S shape. Let's continue this motion with the base pointing down, and the rest of the chain now forms a U shape. At this stage, the base has stopped moving, and the rest of the chain begins to settle. To finish the animation, I'm going to copy the first frame and paste it here, so we end in exactly the same pose we started with. Let's scrub the animation and see what we have. This looks okay. I think I want the last part to play slower, so I'm giving the last 2 keyframes a little more time. That looks better. Let's repeat this animation. Copy the animation keyframes and paste them a few frames later. I'd like the second tail whip to go a little faster, so let's time compress the keyframes. When I have a range of frames selected, and I hold down the Alt key, I can stretch or compress the timing of the keyframes. Stretching the time plays the animation slower, and compressing it plays it faster. Press play. Let's make a preview animation to check the timing. Yeah, I like it. Approved. And that's pretty much it for animating a basic tail whip. We can also use the Transform Bones tool to rotate any bone individually. Or select the whole chain and curl it. For practice, try making the tail perform other actions, like pointing to something, or knocking an object over. In a future tutorial, I'll show you how to rig the rest of the cat so we can have more fun with it. Right now, I hear the music, and that means we're at the end of our lesson. Get it? The end of our lesson? Yeah, that's a dumb joke. You don't have to like it. But if you like these tutorials and want me to keep making them, please consider supporting the Little Green Dog channel on my Ko-fi page. This episode was partially funded by Toon Lyrics and Keith. Thanks for your support, guys. You rock. To visit the Ko-fi page, go to kofi.com/littlegreendog or click the link in the video description. While you're there, check out our gallery and the shop for more fun stuff. Thanks for watching, stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you soon.